Hello, welcome to New Vocations virtual tour. We're an hour early today. And so today we are going to do something very, very special that we haven't had the opportunity to do. And we are going to share more in depth on the history of Mereworth Farm. And Mereworth Farm is the facility or the farm where our Lexington facility is located. So just to do a little introduction, my name's Anna Ford. I'm the Thoroughbred Program Director of New Vocations. And for those of you that may not know much about New Vocations, we are the largest racehorse adoption program in the country and the oldest, starting back in 1992. And our mission is to rehab, retrain, and rehome retired racehorses. And like I said earlier, today we're going to be focusing on a little bit of our history. But before we get to that, we're going to be talking to Jimmy Boyd here, who is the farm manager of Mereworth Farm. And we're going to do a little bit of a tour of this side of the Mereworth Farm. There's a cemetery here, as well as talk about the Susan Donaldson Foundation. While we're doing this tour, we do welcome you to put in any questions in the comment section. And Erica, who's behind the camera, will let us know when the questions come along. So please let us know any questions that you might have. We'll do our best to answer those. So without further ado, Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us. He's got a very busy schedule today. They're actually baling hay, and I'm going to be starting here in the next hour or less. So that's why we moved our tour up a little bit, because we know how important hay is. So Jimmy, tell us how long you have worked here as the farm manager at Mereworth Farm.
I actually came here in October of 2011.
2011, wow.
So it'll be 9 years in October, and my boss says I can't retire, but we're really going to think about it in 4 more years. But she says I can't leave, so we'll see.
Well, Mereworth Farm, I didn't know much about it until we were introduced to Elizabeth Hughes, and she, is one of the trustees here and is in charge of the Susan Donaldson Foundation. But Mereworth Farm is a very historical farm that was started back in the early 1920s by Walter Salmon, and it was a pretty prevalent racing and breeding operation way back then, and for nine decades, let me say. And so in doing like a little bit of the history, there's a lot of great history here. It's one of the original farms that have stayed in operation, although it's changed through the years. Is there anything that you'd like to share about it, or any fun stories? I know your dad had a connection here.
Well, the neat thing about it, there used to be a publication called the Thoroughbred Record. And on the back page of the Thoroughbred Record was Mereworth Farm. My dad lived here when he was 13 years old, so that means my grandfather worked here.
Very cool.
The weird thing about it, when I came to interview for this job, I told my dad, I said, "Where's Mereworth Farm?" And he gave me all these instructions. So I drove out here before my interview, and I looked around, and I couldn't see a sign anywhere that said Mereworth Farm. The only thing I could distinguish was it was a baby blue colored barns with white, and I figured it out.
Very cool.
And since I've been here, we've redid the whole farm and fence, and we've painted all the barns. We've removed some of the old houses, and we actually came up with the own idea to raise our own hay. We have 150 acres of hay, and that brings quite a bit of hay each year for us, for these horses. We'll feed over 90 bales a day during the winter to 170 horses.
Wow, that's great. Well, let's walk over to the cemetery area. So it's my understanding, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the headstones here and the horses that were buried here on the farm were either graded stakes producers or graded stakes winners themselves. Is that what?
I think the ones with the certain plate on the front of them were actually that way.
Okay.
Some of these other horses, Susan actually buried on her own.
Okay, so these are the more recent ones. Okay.
But the one thing about these horses, if you'll look how old they are when they passed away, they were raised like horses. Mm-hmm. They were raised like horses. You look at them and they all lived to be 20-something years old.
That's
The
amazing.
thing about these horses we have here now, we have 90-something Mereworth horses, and they all stay outside and get all they can, but they live a happy life.
You guys do a great job, and that's awesome that they can live to be that long. What's the oldest horse you have right now?
30.
30.
Probably have 2 or 3 of them close to 30.
Wow. So Erica, if you want to kind of show some of the headstones here, and we're going to walk down to one specific one, who I would...
Well, see, that one is a sire of Sword Dancer.
Okay.
Sunglow.
Yeah, Sunglow is a famous one. He's a sire sword dancer. Some of you might be familiar with that breeding. The one I wanted to look at was the horse named Display, who was bred and raised and raced by Mereworth Farm. And I remember when Barbara Livingston was here, she mentioned that he was very difficult to train, and she remembered him. I guess what I read on him, that they didn't train him much, they just raced him, and and back then they were racing like every week anyhow, so you didn't have to do as much training. But he ended up siring a horse named Discovery, who ended up being Horse of the Year in 1935. And I would think Discovery would probably be one of the most well-known horses that was bred and raised here at Mereworth Farm. Just to drop some names, his daughters end up being great producers. They produced horses such as Bold Ruler, Native Dancer, you might know some of them, Raise a Native, Secretariat, Seattle Slew, Northern Dancer were descendants from all of those. So, I mean, Mereworth's history and what they were able to produce back then is really evident in even today's famous sire. So that was a really great piece of history. Now, I understand that Walter Salmon Sr., when he passed away, his son, also Walter Salmon Jr., took over the farm. And then when he passed, Susan Donaldson, his daughter, actually purchased as much of the land that she could, and that was about 1,200 acres, right?
Yeah, they said she purchased like 1,200 of the original acres in 1986. The neatest thing she did in 1987, she set up a trust for her horses. She passed away in 2011, and she took care of her horses. She was a big animal lover, and it was witnessed by how she would support the Humane Society, how we take care of the cats. We have like so many cats in each barn, and we probably feed 100 pounds of cat food a week. But that includes the raccoons get it, and the skunks, and the cats.
Well, she was a true animal lover.
Definitely.
It didn't matter if it was a horse or a cat or a raccoon or
Well,
even
they
squirrels.
tell a story. She bought a brand new pickup truck, and it had air conditioning, and it was for one of her dogs. And the guy's job during the day was to make sure that dog was in that truck getting cooled. At the end of the day, that dog was taken to Lexington to her house.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, speaking of Susan, let's walk over to this other grave site.
And she named a property after one of her dogs, Corky's.
Corky's,
That's named
yeah.
after her dog. It's like, we use it for isolation. It's like a 15-acre tract over on Yarlington. But it's named Corky's.
Corky's. So when Susan passed, just going back to what you said, where she left all 1,200 acres of this farm, as well as like 200 horses that she had at the time, all went into the foundation and to live out their life here on this farm. But she also had a much larger vision than that. She wanted to make sure this farm was kept a farm as long as possible, and that it could also serve as a sanctuary for unwanted horses or horses that otherwise might be euthanized. So not only her horses, but other horses out there that might benefit from retiring here. That was a huge, huge vision. And that's what you run. I mean,
She's way ahead of her time. All these other people talk about thoroughbred aftercare. She started it in 1987 when she did that trust. She loved animals.
And your crew, it's Jimmy, it's you, and you have eight
Eight other
other
people,
crew,
and we
and
all live on the farm.
all live on the farm, and you guys, your sole mission is to take care of the farm and the horses and the animals on this property.
Correct. And we give them all they need and more.
And how many horses do you have right now?
Well, 170, but in about a week I'll have 171. That's one over my limit. I get a lot of phone calls, and it always starts out, oh, I have a horse, and my daughter's going away to college, and she doesn't want her horse no more. You should have thought of that when you got the horse. What we like to do is work with people that have passed, and they have so many horses, and they can't take care of them, or the estate doesn't want them. We work with people like that. We work with the Humane Society. We work with other rescues, and we work with New Vocations on taking horses. But through my years being here, I like the older horses. I don't like the younger horses because they're going to still be here when I'm gone. If you send me a 20-something-year-old, in a few years it might pass away, and that gives a spot for another horse. If you send me a 5-year-old gelding, and I'm going to really take care of him, he's still going to be here when I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, Erica, I wanted you to come over, and Susan herself is buried here at this cemetery, and on each side, you can kind of pan out on both sides, her beloved cats and dogs and a horse are all buried next to her, which is the way that she wanted it. And this is a registered cemetery that they did this just for Susan, so she could be buried here on her farm, which is amazing. Well, before we leave, Jimmy, I just wanted to touch. We're gonna do a little bit of a driving tour, but just touch a little bit on New Vocations and our relationship with you guys, which came about in 2013, and then when we were able to build in 2015. So basically, the Susan Donaldson Foundation approached us about the potential of if we needed land to grow on, which we did. We were really outgrowing our current facility. However, building a facility was not something that we had thought about, but it ended up working out extremely well. We ran a huge capital campaign to build the facility, started state-of-the-art training facility. But if it wasn't for the help of the Susan Donaldson Foundation and Jimmy and his crew, we wouldn't be able to do what we do here every day. They gave us a free lease of 150 some acres. They also give us the use of our rehab barn across the street. And then Jimmy and his crew mow all of our green spaces and provide our grain and hay, and it's just amazing what you guys are able to do for our program. So we really appreciate everything that you do. We're so thankful for Susan and her vision back then. I think she would be so proud of where the farm is today and where it's going to be in the future. It's just really amazing. So is there anything you'd like to say in closing that you feel you'd like people to know about either the farm or Susan or anything else?
It's a beautiful farm.
And you can see a little glimpse of it during our horse country tours that we have now weekly. And you can see that at visithorse.com. So, well, Jimmy, thank you so much for your time. Good luck baling all that hay.
It'll be over with by 4 o'clock.
By 4 o'clock? Wow. So 4 hours of baling. Hey, that's a workout.
It's a home fitness club here.
Well, we'll take your mic, and then we're going to jump in the car and do a little tour here.
Thank you. It just gets sentimental, seriously.
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks, Jimmy. We'll walk on over to my car.
She's a good woman. You know, they told me that if he comes back, I get to leave first.
Well, we're so glad that Jimmy was able to join us. I know he's a very busy guy. And their crew really does a great job. Man, 170 horses, and then we've got 60 of our own here, which I wanted to just do a quick drive so everyone can see how big, well, just a glimpse at 1,200 acres. So we'll jump in my car. Do you have any questions, Erica? Okay, so as we're going to drive out of the farm here, sorry. Erica, I'll have you just kind of pan around to the different areas, different pastures. Right now we are over at the area, it's called the colt barn. These was a foaling barn and a colt barn, and they had primarily their yearlings in here and also their foaling barn here. But what you're seeing right now are the horses that Jimmy was mentioning earlier that are permanently retired here and will live the rest of their lives out here. You'll see as we go by that first of all, they're primarily thoroughbreds. They do take some other breeds, but there's definitely more thoroughbreds out there than any other breed. And they all look amazing, even despite the little drought that we're having right now. Look like they're taking their afternoon nap. And then on the right, you'll see in the distance there's another small group out there. And so the one thing I wanted to mention about our relationship with the Mereworth Farm and the Susan Donaldson Foundation is that, we started in 1992, and it wasn't until 2010 when we started to really branch out to additional facilities that we started seeing a large amount of growth for our program. And when we moved here in 2015, started our building project, we just really were able to expand our mission, which we're so thankful for, and all the people that came together to support our capital campaign. We're currently taking in over 500 retired racehorses a year and putting them through our rehab program. The majority of the horses that come into our program have some type of injury, whether it's a minor muscle soreness or tendon injury to something as major as a fracture that needs to be surgically repaired. And then once we get the horses healthy through our rehab program, then we move them over to the training farm, which is where we're going to end this tour today. And that's the main property that we were able to build that we did not have 5 years ago. And it's amazing to see the hundreds of horses that go through that training operation on an annual basis. If you've been following us during COVID, we have seen an increase in our adoptions, and we've had a record number of 60 horses adopted in April and 63 in May. So we've continued doing virtual adoptions through this strange time. But we are very fortunate that we've been able to continue servicing the retired racehorses that are needing our care. So straight ahead is the property line of where New Vocations side of the farm starts, and that's one of our large fields that we have horses out 24/7. And they're normally the horses that have been in our rehab program that just need a couple more months' time from a tendon or something minor, just to have a relaxed time out before we bring them into our training side. And you'll see another field there, and that's a night turnout field that for the horses that are in training. They'll go out all night. And basically everything you can see on both sides of this road is all Mereworth Farm. Again, it's 1,200 acres. It's very, very large. And then to the left, you can see some paddocks here. This is part of it's called the Williams Barn. It's the Mereworth Williams Barn. It's one of the original barns on the property. We'll be visiting there next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And that's where the horses go if they need some rehab care prior to entering our training farm. I swear I'm only going like 15 miles per hour, but I looked on the camera, it looks like I'm flying. You can see the old historical walls that are still here. And here you can look to the left, this is the Williams Barn. We'll go visit there next week. There's about 20 stalls in there, 20 horses that we have. And this is one of my favorite roads in all of Kentucky. This is Dolan Lane. And I feel like I'm in Europe when we drive down this road. And just to the right is where we're going to be pulling in, and that's our training side of the farm. So literally when the horses are done rehabbing, we often just walk them over to this side of the farm. So this is the land that they free lease us. It's part of the 156 acres.
How many staff does New Vocations have?
On this side of the farm, we have 6 barn staff, and then we also have our office staff here, which mans all of the whole operation as a whole. And there's another 6 of us in that office, which is where we're gonna stop. And each one of our facilities in New York, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, Ohio have their own trainer and additional staff there too. So we'll jump out here. So in front of us, and Erica, you can kind of swing through these lawn jockeys. These are all of our foundation donors. These are the people that donated to our project, to our capital campaign, and were really instrumental in helping us get this project up and going. And it's really great that when visitors come, they're greeted by these lawn jockeys. And if you come back, you'll see this is Mereworth Farm's silks. It's hard to find those if you Google them these days, but we were able to find them. And we feel very blessed that we can represent them here. So, do you have any other questions? Nope. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, hearing a little bit about the Mereworth history. Like I said, next week we'll be going over to the rehab barn, and then the following week we'll be covering our transitional training, and then we'll go into the adoption side as well. And we do this every week, and we're really glad that you can join us. If you're interested in learning more about New Vocations, we'd love to have you visit our website at newvocations.org. If you'd like to come out and visit us in person, you can visit horsecountry.com, and sign up for one of our tours in person there. We are doing limiting numbers of 10 or less, and also private tours. If you're interested in learning or helping out, there's a lot of ways that you can help New Vocations. You can follow us through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Anytime you can share any of our information on any of our platforms, and we're on TikTok too, that helps us spread our mission, spread our word, and help us get our horses seen and adopted quicker, which helps us help more horses in the long run. If you're interested in supporting us financially, you can learn more about how to do that at our website, newvocations.org. Or if you're interested in adding a horse to your barn, we'd love to have you adopt from us. You can also find more information on our website about that. And if there's no other questions, we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining.